Good morning. My name is Ken Kumph. I own a company called Premier Builders in Georgetown, Massachusetts, about 25 miles north of Boston. And in today's Cabinet Makers Association presentation, I'd like to talk to you about job costing, comparing estimated costs to actual costs, make sure we're making a profit. A little bit about myself. I started my business in 1986. Previous to that, I was a carpenter, and I got to the point where I wanted to do my own carpentry jobs. And so I did that, started by myself, then got a few guys, got a few jobs, and things started to grow from there. So it's been, I'm in my 34th year of business, or 35th year of business now. I introduced a cabinet shop portion into my business in 1998, and have started with just one guy in a small barn with a table saw, and we've grown to about a 12,000 square foot shop. We do have a CNC machine and programming and automation. We're constantly investing in our tooling and our education, and that's what this is part of. So without further ado, I'd like to start talking about job costing. I'd like to take a systematic approach. It didn't always start that way, but the beginning for me is estimating correctly, estimating accurately, estimating the procedure so we can repeat it, we can teach it, and we have something we can count on when we sit down at our desk to try to figure out a job. I'm going to start by talking about my experience as a carpenter and a builder doing remodeling in homes, and then convert that into how I took that approach and placed it into the cabinet makers world. The second part of job costing for me, after nailing down how we estimate, is to report what we estimated into a program. We use QuickBooks. I estimate in an Excel program that we had built. For us, it's a simple tool that we've been using now for, it's got to be going on 15 years, but it's very effective. We basically break things down by labor, materials, and subcontractors, the three things that we sell, that we work with. So there's labor to build things, there's materials that go into it, and there's subcontractors at times. And then the true sense of job costing is estimated versus actual. How do we do against our estimate? If we figured 100 man hours to do a job, how many hours did it take us? How do we look at that? How do we grab that information easily and use it as a tool to better our estimates as we move forward and try to make a profit in this business? So as far as profit and loss, that's really what we're looking at, and profit and loss per job, and then as a company. As a company, it's really just accumulation of all the jobs that you do added up. So if we do well on all our projects going along, as a whole for the year, our company should do well. So I look at profit and loss per job. I look at profit and loss in my company, in my QuickBooks, in our accounting package, and I want that to be accurate. So here we go. This kind of says for a lot of us, especially early on, with our clients, a lot of our clients come to us and say, hey, how much to build a cabinet? And I say, well, how much does a car cost? Because we need a scope. We need to know what we're estimating. I like to break things down. I don't like to just wing it, although I'm still guilty of doing that at times, just based on experience, ballparking. I'm going to put it in the world of my construction estimating, the way I started. We break things down by phase and task now. We break it into specific targets. I basically build the project on paper, whether it's a house, a remodel job, or a kitchen remodel, or kitchen cabinets. In this particular example, and this is the way we have it laid out now, is, we build it on paper. There might be some demolition, and what's under that demo will get specific framing, mechanicals, finishes, those types of things that go into building or remodeling a home. Back in the day, we started with the yellow pad. Many of you might be familiar with the three columns. Write down what you're doing, how many man hours you think it might take, how much materials it might take, and what the subcontractor costs are. Add them all up at the bottom and use an hourly rate for our labor. Use a multiplier for our materials and subs. In this example, this from way back, looks like 91. If I add up the numbers, if I add them up 3 times and they all come out the same, then I think I got correct. So in this example, I had my 64 hours. I used a $65 an hour rate at the time, and come up to $41.60. My materials, I marked 20%, and my subcontractor is 20%. My sell price is $17,320. It's about as simple as it gets. Break it down, do a markup, try to sell it. As times evolved and computers came into play, again, remember I started this back in '86. Labor, materials, subs, and markups. We came up with a quick estimate sheet that we could just kind of plug it in. The advantage of doing a computerized Excel type sheet is that it started to get automated for us. We could save it easily and have to go try to find it in a file I had on the computer. And we could start putting in some standards. You can see 20% markup kind of in a green box there, $65 an hour rate. So those types of things helped us to standardize our estimating. Kind of quickly from that quick estimate converted into a bigger, this was our old electronic yellow pad. We just plug in some numbers and the computer does the math for us. Someone else helped us set up these formulas. It's not that I was experienced with at the time. I'm better at it now, but creating formulas in Excel so things add up correctly at the end of it. It's more sophisticated. There's less math errors. It's easy to save. It's easy to duplicate. We do a lot of repetitious types of projects. How many kitchen remodels or bathroom remodels or kitchen cabinet jobs or entertainment centers have we built? So we can start to save this and build off of it. We estimate by phase, like I said, and this is something that we've developed over time. It came from the the idea came from the CSI format. It's a Construction Specification Institute. Architects, when they give you specifications for a project, probably started off more as a commercial project, but it lends itself to residential. Basically breaking down the bigger phases in our work. These are my phases. These are my job codes. The idea is not mine uniquely, but the numbering system is mine. We basically use code 2 for setup, code 12 for roofing, code 14 for siding and trim. And we also use a letter. When you'll see at the bottom, it says L equals labor, M materials, S subs. So when my guys are filling in their time cards, if they're doing finished carpentry, which is our code 32, they put on their time card 32L. And we know that that's the labor portion that gets entered into QuickBooks. If they bought some trim work, some casings and windowsills or doors, or we ordered them from the office, that goes into 32M. If we hired a subcontractor to help us install and they sent us a bill for $1,000, it would be 32S. That's exactly the way it gets entered into QuickBooks. And you can have someone help you set up your QuickBooks. I certainly didn't set it up, but at some point I figured I'd better hire someone to do it right. So we got our QuickBooks up correctly. So our accounting system is accurate. It's repeatable. It's something that my bookkeeper can do. My admin woman in the office can help me with. I can do. I get nervous on it, but it's a system that works. So I took that concept of doing modeling and building, and when our cabinet shop division started to become a bigger part of our business, it's a huge part of our business today. Our architectural millwork estimating sheet or codes are similar. 35 is our Premier Builders cabinet shop code, and under that we've broken down various tasks that we do. So we basically sat down, we've revamped this a little bit in the last couple of months. So we've actually consolidated a few of these codes to make it simpler for everybody. But the idea is the same, that we break down what we do and then we compare how long it took us or what it cost us to produce a project versus what we estimated. So when we estimate with these codes as well. I have electronic sheet, and I'll show you that as well. That is that's broken down into all these categories. So when the guys are set up, might be going to a job meeting, doing some estimating. We may not get reimbursed for that. We may get the job. Once we get into design, where our shop manager Kurt, maybe sitting down and taking a plan and turning it into some shop drawings for approval. We try to estimate how long that takes. We estimate how long it takes to make boxes, to do the face frames, to do associated millwork that might be going into it. If we're responsible for countertops, we subcontract, unless it's a wood countertop, we subcontract our countertops. We have our own dedicated spray booth and finish man, and he does all of our finishing. So all these things get broken down. If we have an electrician coming to help us wire something, wire some even low voltage stuff in a cabinet. So this is where we try to estimate everything. I do show warranty work in here. We don't obviously estimate warranty work. We think all our jobs are going to be perfect, but in the rare case, we have to go back and fix something. We have a code for that so that we can track, you know, what's happening. If all of a sudden it starts to look like there's a lot of warranty work, is it something that we have having some problems with something, with a machine, with a technique, with a process? Is it just a more difficult client that's expecting when we explained? So we try to track all of our labor, and the guys understand this completely. So we have a job number for, you know, the Smith job is job 20-10. The task code might be 3505. It's as simple as that. So again, identify the key functions in the shop. If nothing else, sit down, just take one of the jobs you're at right now, just write down the different functions, the different tasks that are being performed, whether they're all by you as a one-man shop, or you're doing multiple tasks, or what you think your guys in the shop might do. If you can get it down on paper and try to group them, that would help you with creating your own shop codes. Some examples here as well, the labor, materials, and subcontractors, really I just described. Again, estimating in our Excel format and reporting into QuickBooks so that later on I can get a report out of QuickBooks, but that's just our system. I don't estimate in QuickBooks myself. I know others do, and that's fine as long as you have a process. Here's our latest and greatest spreadsheet. I say latest and greatest, but again, it's at least 15 years old. I'm not sure if you can really see that on the screen here, but you can see that I have an estimate sheet here that this is just a piece of it. So setup, design, casework, some of the codes that I identified earlier. And underneath that, it's kind of a typical list of things in the orange of things that we do under that phase. So if one of my, you know, if Kurt's doing shop drawings, he knows that it goes under design. So he estimates, okay, it's going to take me 8 hours to do shop drawings. This Excel spreadsheet that we have is actually a little bit more sophisticated than I'm showing right here. We do all the work on this one page, and other pages are connected to this. So I can do a client estimate. It's in a presentation type form. I can show them a total. I can show them a broke down number. You know, there's a variety of ways to do it. And I'm happy to share this with anybody that might want it. You can grab my my contact info at the end of this. So the only places we're allowed to type any information in is in the colored cells. The white cells are formulas. They add up, like under labor, I'll put number of men times the number of hours. 2 guys a day to do field measuring, let's say that's 16 hours. It'll tie to a rate that I type in a different sheet. I have a QuickBooks sheet that these numbers go to so that my bookkeeper can look at these numbers and know where we've estimated everything. There'll be time at the end to ask questions if I'm going too quick. I know I'm kind of flying through this a little bit here. So on time cards, I had to put that sideways with my presentation here, but this is a typical time card for gentleman Peter Discharge. This is an actual time card that I just pulled for example, and it shows the date, the job name, the job number that we assign. Every time a lead comes into the office, immediately we get a hold of stuff in the office or in the computer, and give it a job number. Even if we don't get the job, we at least have a job number. So when I'm estimating, I put down a job number. The task, again, those you see like 3505 about halfway down the page. That's for doing some production work from 7 to 4 in the shop. We took a half hour for lunch, so we had an 8.5-hour day. And a quick brief description at the end. The idea of the brief description is sometimes I might be looking at trying to bill somebody, and I just want to make sure that we got things right, or if I have any questions, I can always go back and look at this stuff. So we use job numbers and task codes. We put it into the system. It's simple. It happens on a daily basis here. It's not a difficult thing to do. We do it with our materials and our subcontractors as well. So we're buying materials to build any of these things you see here. We have a code for it. It's materials code, and it gets pushed in. And my QuickBooks reports spits it right back out at me the way that I entered it. Again, the programs that we happen to use that I think are well worth for us. So estimate in Excel. If you're not familiar with Excel, or you're rudimentary with Excel, there's people out there that'll help you build the system you want. Try to tell them what you want, and there's someone that can help you figure it out. It's not that difficult. The stuff that we do in Excel is not difficult at all. It's small math equations, and it's more formatting than anything. So we track in QuickBooks, and we compare the reports to, we take the Excel estimate, we take the QuickBooks report, and I can just side by side go right down the list and say, how do we do in this job? If things look close or okay, or we made money in one category, I skip. Well, first of all, I look at the big job. I say, how do we do in the job? If I know we're doing fine, I don't necessarily have to dissect every little piece of it unless I want to. If there's a problem, I like to dig in. I sit down with the guys and say, what happened? We went way over in finishing, or way over in production. What happened here? It's just helpful for everybody. It's helpful to include everybody as well. So this is the circle of life in job costing, I guess. Just to kind of put it in a visual format. We estimate by phase, by item. We record actual labor, materials, and subs by the phase. And we compare it. We analyze it, do a post-mortem, so to speak, and say, hey, how did it go? Really well, really bad? From that, I can make decisions on bonuses to people, or to divisions, or to the whole company. I can make decisions on investing in tools if we're finding that we're having a problem in one area. Right now we finally, just yesterday, pulled the trigger. We're buying a new edge bander. So you got to reinvest in your company to keep it going, to make these things work. We make adjustments. We make adjustments either in what we're doing in the shop or in the field. We make adjustments in our estimating. So it's not always just an estimating error, or underestimate, overestimate, or in the field. I got to trust that my guys are working as hard as they can. More than likely, it's a process or a procedure that we can try to get better at. Getting lean, trying to work in a better way. All these things that we're hearing around our industry right now, and that you're going to learn through some of our Cabinet Makers Association presentations. So it goes back to estimating again. So we're constantly revamping. We're adding some items to our articular list in the orange column. Try to make it better. It's certainly not a perfect world, but so we're doing good on most projects right now, which is rewarding. We pull our reports, our accounting reports, from QuickBooks. I have a job profitability report, which is nothing more than it has everything above the line. But when I look at the bottom line, I can say, hey, here's what it cost us. Here's what we took in for income. Here's the difference. And I have some formulas that I like to use to make work. I have some goals that we have to hit to know that we're being profitable as a business, to cover our overhead, which we'll touch on in a few minutes here. I like showing the labor by phase as well, so I can see, hey, how did we do building this on paper versus building it in the field? And I also have a report showing my materials and subcontractors. If all of a sudden I'm looking at a project and we had an electrician lined up to do the work for $1,500 and his bill comes in at $3,500, I got to look at that. Sometimes it could be as simple as, hey, the client asks the sub to add lighting everywhere, and it's on the bill. It could be something. I'm a little bit disconnected, not being in the field on a daily basis. I do know what's going on for the most part, but at times things change in the field, and I'm not necessarily made aware of it. These systems help catch those things so that we can get paid for what we did. This might be a good point to kind of show you some of the metrics of what I like to measure, how we like to measure. This is going to get more into the profit and loss section of our presentation. I'll use some little initials here to show you what my definitions are, and how we talk with our accountants and so forth. But these are going to go into the formulas that I'm going to show you in a minute. SP, sales price of a project to the client. That's the bottom line. The client's paying us X amount of dollars to produce a kitchen. COGS is really the cost of all the things that we were talking about, estimating and reporting, all the labor, materials, and subs that it costs me to do a job, that costs our company to do a job. So this is our direct cost. When we buy something from a vendor, if there's tax on it, if there's shipping, anything, all of that goes into the cost of goods sold. If we didn't have the job, we would not have that expense. So keep that in mind. Gross profit. There's gross profit in dollars, which we can all relate to, and there's gross profit percentages. So both of those are important in our equations. We know we all have overhead. Even the one-man smaller shop has overhead. We all have overhead. And then margin. Margin is what we're going to focus on as well, and making some money. So these are all project-based. How are we doing? These things also help define how you're doing financially in your overall business. We have net profit, which is, again, net profit in dollars, and there's net profit as a percentage sales. Net is after you take out your overhead items. So you charge $10,000, it costs you $5,000 to produce it. You have an overhead expense, it's a percentage of your sales, or it's a dollar value that you come up with, and then you know that you have to get net profit at the end so the company can make some money, or you can put some dollars in your pocket. So we'll go back to those. So some of the formulas, this could get a little bit confusing at times, especially in the way I present it, but I'm going to try to do a clear job of it. And again, we're going to have some time for questions and hopefully good answers. But your sales price, the cost that the client is paying you minus your costs of building the project, is your gross profit. So this is directly related to individual projects. Selling it to a client, selling a kitchen job to a client, it costs you X amount of dollars. Whatever's left is your gross profit. Gross profit doesn't always go in your pocket. It goes to pay for overhead items. After you pay for overhead items, there should be a net profit. Hopefully there's a net profit, and that's where we can have some fun with money. Once you know your gross profit in dollars, you divide it by your sales price. So it's kind of reverse. You take the gross profit you made, you made $3,000, you divide it by your sales price of $10,000, and you have a gross profit percentage. That's your margin. So keep that in mind. That percentage, you're going to try to come up with a goal for your gross profit percentage. And it's a good way to measure how you're doing on a job and as a company. Your project profit and loss versus your company's profit and loss, and your sales price, cost of goods. So here's an example. We have a $50,000 sales job. It costs us $30,000 to produce it. We have $20,000 in profit. It's not all ours yet. But the margin is 40%. So you take your gross profit, divide it by your sales price. So the $20,000 in gross profit, divide it by your sales price, $50,000, you got a 40% margin. That's a pretty good margin. If you want a 40% margin, so go back to estimating. Now this is kind of looking backwards, but when you start and you're doing estimates, if you want a 40% margin, you actually take the inverse of the percentage that you want. So 1 minus 40 is 60. So you take your cost of goods, you divide it by 0.6, 60%. So your cost of goods was 30,000. Let's say in your estimate, your cost to do the job is 30,000. Divide it by 0.6, your sales price is $50,000. If you sell that job for 50 and it costs you $30,000, you're going to make a 40% margin, and it's a damn good margin. The other way to do it, which most of us are used to, is markup. Times a factor. This is shocking to me. It sounds like no way is anybody going to pay this. If you're going to multiply it times 1.67, that's the actual formula. That's the math that works to get you that $20,000. 30 grand times 1.67 is 50 grand. You'll make 20 grand. If you do that formula I explained above, gross profit divided by cost of goods sold, that's 6.67%. So 1.67 would be your multiplier if you're going to do it that way. I really suggest once you get used to doing the divisor, it's so easy. And I'll give you a chart that really helps understand this. Something you can hang on your wall when you're doing your estimating. So the difference between margin and markup. Margin equals the profit divided by the sales. That's what we just did in that previous formula. So what is my overhead as a percentage of sales? A lot of what we do when we're measuring our company health, our financial health, is dividing everything that costs any dollar amount, we divide it by our sales amount, our total sales for the year. So, my rent in a building might be, $50,000 for the year. I divide that by my gross sales for the year, and that's percentage. And it's real easy to look at percentages as you're comparing month to month, year to year, just to kind of see where you're at any point in time. You can pull up a report, and I just pull up my profit and loss report for my company, and I can see how our percentage is looking and find areas that need some work. why are we spending so much on vehicles right now? Is it repairs? Is it gas? Is it, what's the reason behind it? Kind of dig in and see what's going on. Have to come up with a goal for what is our desired profit as a percentage of sales, whether it's gross profit or net profit. We want to have a goal in mind so that when we're estimating at the end of the year or at the end of the job, first of all, then cumulatively, all the jobs added up at the end of the year, how are we doing? I really believe it has to be between 30 and 40% margin. And that doesn't mean you just mark it up by times 1.35 because you'll miss your mark. So here's an example, a $12,000 cost to do a job. If you multiply it times 1.35, you're going to end up with a $16,200 sales price. Say, great, I made my 35%. You didn't, you made 26%. You take your profit, you divide it by your sales, you come up with a 26% margin. If you know you need 30% to stay alive, to pay you, to keep the business going, to reinvest in your company, you're going to miss the mark. And at the end of the year, you're going to say, what happened? So markup is your cost times what number. If you want to get a 35% margin, you need to mark it up times 1.54. Again, it sounds crazy sometimes. You look at it and go, man, how am I going to do that? But you really have to understand what your business needs to make a profit and to stay alive. So in this example, we had a $12,000 cost times 1.54. That's $18,000 480 sales price. And that gives you almost $6,500 in profit. You divide it by the sales price, you end up with a 35% margin. Again, those are healthy margins. You can see the reverse formula to prove it out. The profit divided by the cost is 54. So you're going to multiply it times 1.54. I know this is boring. Or do the division. The desired margin is 1 minus your desired margin. I want 35% margin. 1 minus 0.35 is 0.65. Divide your cost by your desired margin, the inverse, and you end up with the $18,000 sales price. So try to go back and review this. I'll share this with anybody that wants it. Or, this is something that Amanda can post. Just getting back to your overhead and your desired profits and so forth. Many of you saw Sean's presentation that talks about all the things that can go into your overhead, the things we got to think about in doing our estimates to keep the health of our business alive. Reinvesting in tools, insurances. There's so many things. If a tool goes down, how do we hedge against those things so it doesn't put us out of business? So we absolutely need a profit to keep this thing going, to grow. Here we go. This is the golden page right here. This is the markup of the divisor. I have this hanging in front of my desk when I do estimates. So if I feel like the job's getting a little bit too pricey, I'm not going to get the job. I need the job. I might try to lower my markup a little bit. Or if the year's going really well, we've already paid a lot of our overhead, or insurance are paid. I have the flexibility to adjust my margins. And really, sometimes it's a gut feel. Sometimes it's we have to do this. It's just a moment in time. But this gives me the options I need. And I can look at my company health, and I can look at my jobs and say, this is what we need to do to make money. So the multipliers, if you want to make a 35% margin, you need to multiply times 1.54. So take your cost of putting everything together, multiply times 1.54 to get 35%. If you realize that your company needs 25% to stay alive, multiply times 1.33. The easier way to do it, in my mind, is to use a divisor. Take your cost and divide it by, if you need 25%, divide it by 75, and divide it by 0.75, I apologize, and you'll come up with the sales price. So it's a pretty simple and true way of coming up with your sales price for a job. The key is understanding where you are as a company financially, what you need to cover your overhead. If you predict you're going to do $500,000 in sales, and you know that you have an overhead that's going to cost you X amount of dollars, find out what that is divided by the sales price, divided by 500,000. You'll be amazed at some of the numbers you see there. It adds up. So here's where we talk about the company profit and loss. Really, it's just the accumulation of the individual projects' profit and loss. We don't hit them all. if anybody does, let me know your secret. This is just my way of looking at things, but we got to make money on each job to make the end of the year profitable, or most jobs. Again, we don't hit them all. We had a job, it was an absolutely beautiful job. It was a gentleman actually building a castle, a literal castle out of stone that he shipped up from on a railroad bed from Pennsylvania, built this castle and had us do a mahogany kitchen with cathedral top doors and castellations. The pictures are going to be great. I should have just wrote the guy a check and said, hey, good luck. It took my hit. I never let the client know. We did what we could. We got a great project and did it. But again, part of it's our thinking we can do anything and make money at anything. But we missed the mark. We took responsibility and did it. But overall, that was one out of a number of them that went well. So we were able to absorb it. But just being honest here, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but most of the time it does. So anyway, I'll put that one behind for now. Our gross profit from the project is what pays for our overhead of the company. Leases, rents, mortgages, truck repairs, new tires, that all comes out of your gross profit. So you got to make enough to cover some of the stuff to keep your trucks on the road, to keep you guys working. We're investing in equipment all the time. An owner's salary. There's two ways to carry your owner's salary. You can talk to your accountant or bookkeeper about where it goes. Is it are you part of production and it's in the production side? It's in that cost of goods sold, or are you overhead where you're part of the cost keeping the company alive? If you're not working on the project itself, you should be an overhead, and your company has to make enough money to pay your salary and still make a profit at the end of the year, net profit, something that helps you grow. So any of these things come out of our gross profit. Non-production salaries, the bookkeeper, the girl that answers the phone, or the guy that answers the phone, those types of things got to come out of it. All your insurances. It costs a lot of money to stay in business, and we gotta charge enough to get that to happen. And then at the very end, what's left over after overhead's paid is your decision to do what you want with. Bonus it out to yourself. Invest in something else. We got to make a profit. So smiley face, profit, and green. Again, formulas for the company profit and loss are similar to what I was talking about with the individual jobs. Your sales minus the cost to build the product that you're selling is your gross profit, Your gross profit divided by sales is your gross profit percentage. We should have a goal for that. Again, anywhere in the 30 to 40%, I feel is where it should be. Your gross profit dollars, take away your overhead, that's your net profit. That's the fun money. Your net profit divided by your sales is your net profit as a percentage. So again, if you stop playing around with the percentages a little bit and really understanding those, and again, ask your bookkeeper, your accountant to help you understand your profit and loss. It's probably one of the most useful tools I have in my business to understand where I am financially and where I need to pick up. Look at everything as a percentage of sales, and again, I think you'll find it to be a good tool. So in summary, establish a margin needed for your company as a percentage. You can use the numbers I've thrown at you, but it'd be better for you to look at your own company, look at your tax returns for the end of last year and find out where you're at. Talk to accountant, bookkeeper, your wife, whoever understands these numbers, or if you understand them, just be sure. That's my suggestion. Mark up your estimates correctly. Try to take the emotions out of it. It's still difficult to do. I look at a job and I say, oh my God, no way. But it's what we need to make the job work. It's what the customer needs to pay, get a good job from us so that we can stand behind it. And you'll be surprised when you can back up your numbers, you get more jobs. Use the codes, come up with your own codes for estimating. Again, lay materials and subs is basically what we sell. We put it all in a package and call it a cabinet. I'd like to see everyone in the business do it this way. I like to build it on paper. Eventually, you might be able to come up with a cost per lineal foot, a sales price per lineal foot as a rule of thumb. I still like breaking things down by piece. Set up your accounting in the same way so that when you're estimating and you're reporting into QuickBooks or whatever accounting package you have, it's seamless. It's the same way. It's repeatable. Repetitive. I don't know. It's the right way to go. Use your reports to compare actual versus estimate. Take the time to do it. You know, we'll get so busy sometimes we don't. At the end of the day, I know how to get into just enough QuickBooks to look at my reports, or I can have my bookkeeper print out some reports or email them to me. I can look at them at night. You know, most of us have a gut feeling we're doing good or not doing good as a company or on an individual job, but it is good to see where we're at. It does help us, you know, change the course a little bit. We can dig in a little deeper, add more, you know, add more labor or resources to a project to help it stay on track, or to look at it and go, wow, this is a tech project we got to do more of because we're making money at this. It's great. So make your adjustments. We're always adjusting. Keep adjusting. So understand your profit and loss by the job for your company and make some money. That's it for today. I hope you all learned something. I'm happy to answer any questions when we get back at it. I do have to say the Cabinet Makers Association I joined, I think it's about 12 years ago now. It's made a huge difference in my career path. Fortunate enough recently to be on the board of directors and meet some other really successful, talented people. The networking, even though we're in this COVID situation, is still strong. We have to do it through these Zoom meetings and so forth, but we will get back together soon, and I can't wait to meet everyone. Thank you.